Hello world and welcome to the next video. The New York Times has an article, Why Rage Over the 2020 Election Could Last Well Past Trump. A vast majority of Americans do not approve of the riot at the Capitol, but experts warn that the widespread belief that there was election fraud, while false, could have dangerous, lasting effects. So there's recently been a lot of polling on this, and confidence in elections is at a depressing low because the disinformation campaign by certain media sources, repeating lies over and over and over and over again, has truly convinced people that our cases of election fraud are widespread. It's convinced them that, although it is not the case. Every election has some instances of fraud. Through the USA, you can go through and check the old cases where occasionally there's a few people here who vote in a way they're not supposed to, or someone votes when they're not eligible, or the ballot is incorrect, etc., etc. And these cases are investigated and properly handled. But the reality of the matter is, you're never going to have 0% fraud. So there's always some fraction, small fraction of 1% that does happen because so many millions of people vote. And humans who handle those ballots and do the counting and everything, and the people who fill them out and such, or try to follow the rules, all of those things are subject to error because humans are subject to error. And in some cases, when software is involved for voting, software does have bugs on occasion. Now, the bugs that people were talking about that they suspected about votes being flipped, that was, however, not in any way happening here in the US for the presidential election. Claims like that have been disproven. Smaller claims have a little bit of truth to them. Things like somebody who is not properly registered under a name is voting using that person's ballot. But it's not so widespread that it affects an election result. So when you find those cases, you remove those ballots, and the results are, by and large, exactly the same. So the article talks about a certain slice of the 74 million Americans who voted for President Trump. The events of the past 2 weeks are going to convince them even more that things are rigged. And they have a lot of anger and paranoia. That's only gotten worse. They embrace conspiracy theories and are really mad about the 2020 election because they do, in fact, completely believe that it was stolen when it was not, in fact. So one quote is, "If we tolerate a fraudulent election, I believe we cease to have a republic," he said. "We turn into a totalitarian state." And so the thoughts of people go along these lines. This isn't just a candidate that I didn't want, but he won fair and square. There's something different happening here. I believe it needs to be resisted and fought against. And that's a quote by someone interviewed for the article. So because of all of the information that people have to process in their day-to-day lives to figure out what's true and what's false, plenty of people don't have the time or ability to sift through all of the fake information that they are bombarded with on a regular basis. And the cable news channels share a lot of responsibility for this because a lot of times they cover up for, their team's wrongdoings. And the fact that the president has attacked the media, everything except Fox News, and even Fox News at times, well, that means that when you're tuning into those sources, these individuals will not consider anything that these sources say. So they will turn to alternative sources. And those alternative sources are taking advantage of the doubt and mistrust, and they are providing even worse information. So a Quinnipiac poll published last Monday found that 73% still falsely believe there was widespread voter fraud. And so the nation remains divided. Unrest is sadly likely to continue. And the Capitol's on high alert because there have been credible threats that they are investigating. So from a political perspective, we've gone down a kind of dark disinformation timeline because on certain fundamental things, people believe wild conspiracy theories, and they haven't been able to process what really happened. The small cases of fraud, they haven't been able to understand the ways in which those would be bad and taken care of, but not actually flipping an entire election. Because those cases can happen on both sides, in fact. They are Those individual cases of fraud happen on the Democratic side and the Republican side, but it's not in the thousands and thousands of ballots like people think it is, led to believe by bad reporting and misinformation online. So there's been a lot of censorship and such recently, and I don't think, honestly, that that is the approach to deal with misinformation. But we need a better strategy because more and more people will get lost down these conspiracy rabbit holes and will believe crazy things if they're told those things by people they trust. And so this is going to continue to cause us problems well into Biden's presidency. If you enjoy my commentary, please like this video, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.